Some individuals within a couple relationship present with a range of what may be broadly defined as borderline or narcissistic characteristics. So what does this actually look like, and how does it present itself? Are you or your partner prone to what sometimes is referred to as acting out behaviors? These behaviors include, but are not limited to, substance or alcohol abuse or addictions, domestic violence, one or both partners seemingly out of nowhere suddenly erupt in a fit of frustration, annoyance, anger, or rage. Someone threatens to walk out of the relationship or to end the relationship. They accuse the partner that they're not changing or nothing ever seems to change. In general, what I'm trying to capture is that there are severe limitations in what we call affect, that's emotional regulation. Alternatively, this is also part of this acting out behavior. You or your partner may be down-regulated, right? In other words, you are accused of being cold or distant or not having any emotions. In my work with these individuals or couples, the basic assumption is that these relationship problems derive from an inability to think. Anytime that emotional arousal goes up, accusations, blaming, anxiety, stress, all of these things interfere with one's capacity to think and then therefore communicate in a way that's productive. So, if you can imagine that difficulty with thinking is caused by affective arousal, the blaming, accusations, agitation, domestic violence, all of these things lead to a dysregulated state, then the next logical question becomes, how do we address this affective arousal and get one to a point where they can begin to feel more contained? The goal is to enhance one's capacity for thinking and to build up a more robust system, a regulatory system that's capable of thinking rather than acting. And yes, I define acting as all those ways that I mentioned before. Action or acting doesn't actually have to be doing something. It could be just an outburst of anger. But you may be asking, how is this accomplished? How do we build up a more robust system of self-regulation? The intention is to instill an attitude of thinking about your own thoughts and feelings, right? And more importantly, thinking about the thoughts and feelings of your partner. The way this happens is to instill a sense of curiosity. So here's an example. When one says to their partner, well, you don't know anything about what's going on with, you could fill in the blank here, with the kids or the house or the backyard because you're never home. The goal here is to immediately slow this type of communication down. Because when there's any sort of accusation like this, you can automatically assume that you or your partner is already in a dysregulated state of mind. In order for this thinking that I mentioned earlier to be possible, we need to sort of tame what's called an affective storm. What I'm trying to convey, if I could digress just for a moment, is nicely captured in a classic song that was recently mixed and is gaining popularity on social media. The name of the song is The Sound of Silence. And in the song, if you have a moment to listen to it, you'll hear the lyrics, and I'll just choose a few of them, but they go something like this. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. So in this simple example that I just gave, to apply the lyrics of this song and to apply this concept, to instill this concept of thinking, when one says, well, you don't know anything about what's going on here with the kids, and by the way, your whole family is narcissistic. we can hear immediately in her experience that there's an absence, there's a feeling of absence, and that is catastrophic. But that's not what she's communicating. So this is an example of someone who is talking, but they're not speaking. And then when he fires back that I had to go to work and you don't understand anything about the value of working, he is in a position where he is not listening. Initially, my work with these individuals or couples is to first recognize, to first identify these rapid changes in affective arousal, and of course what led up to them at these critical moments. And I know this is challenging, and that's why it may be helpful to have a professional involved. It's so important for you to express the curiosity that I mentioned earlier. What's going on right now? I'll do this myself. If I'm with a patient and they suddenly get angry, what have I just done? What led up to this anger? Now, in your case, you may not want to say, what have I just done? But you can still have this attitude of curiosity is, what just got you so angry? What happened there? This, again, may be really hard to believe, and I hope you could think about it this way. But this attack of, you don't know anything about what's going on, the sole intent is not necessarily just to attack or devalue you. The attempt is to communicate something, but the capacity to use words to really communicate something is not there. So the communication sort of gets mangled. And that's really what you want to get at. And that's what I help these people with, is to understand what is it that they're really trying to communicate. Then, if you could do this, it's possible that you could begin to listen. And once you begin to listen, your partner begins to communicate in a much clearer way. You could begin to talk about your difficulties in the relationship. Now you have two people that are communicating. And this is actually where the work begins. Anyway, listen, I know this stuff inevitably is very complicated. If I said anything that confused you, please leave a comment below. I'm curious also to know what you think about this approach. And overall, the goal is to have a mind, an attitude, to instill an attitude of curiosity. And that helps contain the situation. That helps contain these affective storms. And inevitably, this is what leads to genuine communication and connection. All right, bye for now.